Hello and welcome back to ScaleUp Radio Shorts. I'm Kevin Brent, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and Smart 90 co-creator, Louise Blunt. How are you doing today, Louise?
I'm doing incredibly well, Kevin, thank you. I am really looking forward to today's episode. In these shorts, our goal is to take a step back and compare the golden nuggets from our recent full-length guest interviews. Today, we are looking at two fascinating conversations you had recently, one with Liz Hubert, founding partner of CX by Design, and the other with Diane Mentzer, a COO coach and founder of Diane Integrates.
Yes, two very different experts, but what really struck me as I reflected on both interviews is how they are ultimately solving two sides of the exact same problem, the growing pains of scaling a business.
Right, the growing pains.
Both of them deal extensively with founders who have hit a wall and are feeling completely overwhelmed.
Exactly, and what I loved is how they pinpointed the symptoms of that wall. In your interview with Diane, she talked about how growing companies invariably hit a ceiling,
Hmm.
often around the $3 million or $10 million revenue mark. Suddenly, momentum stalls, the team isn't functioning as smoothly, and the founder feels like they are completely at capacity.
Right. And then you have Liz Hubert, who approaches business from a customer experience and data-driven decision-making perspective. Liz mentioned that one of the biggest signs a leadership team is failing to make proper decisions is when they constantly complain about being too busy or being unable to focus.
Yeah.
She made a brilliant point. Busyness happens when you haven't made a decision about how to use your time. And more importantly, when you haven't decided what you're going to stop doing.
Which is the hardest thing for any entrepreneur to do. We see it all the time with our Smart 90 clients. Founders want to do it all. They want to say yes to every opportunity. But as Lise pointed out, if you are functioning in a state of constant overwhelm, you aren't doing your best work. You have to make trade-offs.
She gave a great example of this in the interview. She was working with a CEO of a worldwide high-end audio equipment manufacturer. The CEO was trying to decide between three major initiatives: creating a robust online portal for their wholesale retailers, redesigning their consumer-facing website, or doubling down on their post-purchase customer experience.
A classic founder dilemma. All three sound like great ideas. How did she help them choose?
Liz uses a fantastic structure she calls the now, next, later framework. It removes the emotional bias and asks three fundamental questions.
Okay.
First, how well will this help meet the business goals? Second, how well will this help the customers reach their goals? And third, what is our realistic resource availability, meaning money, time, and people?
It's such a beautifully simple trifecta. By looking at those three elements, you can rank the options logically. She also gave a brilliant hypothetical about implementing an AI chatbot, didn't she?
She did. She noted that an AI chatbot might score high for business goals because it saves on costs, but it might score very low on customer experience because customers don't always like them.
That makes sense.
On the flip side, spending low resources to write a simple Google Doc script for your customer service team might have a massive positive impact on both the business consistency and the customer's happiness. It surfaces the true impact versus the investment, allowing you to confidently put some initiatives on the later list.
And that discipline to sideline the later items is what cures that busyness and overwhelm. But what really fascinated me about Liz's approach is her emphasis on setting milestones to avoid the sunk cost fallacy. When we try something new, we hate giving up on it.
Yes, she referenced a story from World War II to illustrate opportunity cost. The military was looking at planes coming back with bullet holes and trying to figure out where to add extra armor. Initially, you'd think to put the armor where the holes are.
Right, intuitively.
But a statistician realized they actually needed to put the armor where the bullet holes weren't because the planes hit in those other areas were the ones that didn't survive to come back.
It's mind-blowing because it completely shifts how you think about data and failure. If a business initiative isn't working after 3 months, you have to ask yourself, how much more time and opportunity will I lose if I keep going down this path for another 6 months? Failing fast is far better than dragging out a partial failure.
Exactly. So Liz's interview was a masterclass in how to decide what the business should focus on. But once you've made that confident, data-driven decision, you actually have to execute it. And that is where my conversation with Diane Mentzer becomes incredibly relevant.
Yes, because making the decision is only half the battle. Diane, as an EOS integrator and COO coach, specializes in what happens when the CEO has the vision, but operations can't keep up. I absolutely loved the race car analogy she used.
The race car analogy was spot on. Diane explained that as a company grows, you might build a massive, high-powered engine, which represents your sales and marketing team.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't upgraded your operations, you are driving that high-powered engine on horrible tires. The minute you hit a certain speed or take a curve, those tires won't grip and the whole business is going to spin out. Your execution simply has to be able to deliver what your sales team is selling.
Which inevitably leads to the founder needing a second in command, whether you call that a COO, an integrator, an enabler, a managing director. But handing over those keys can be terrifying. And Diane mentioned a story about a CEO who went through 4 fractional COOs in a single year. Why does that happen so often?
Because the CEO's words and actions weren't aligned, the CEO would tell the COO to take charge of an operation, but the moment the COO tried to implement a new phase, the CEO would pull the control right back.
Yeah.
Diane was very blunt about this. If you are bringing in a COO, but you aren't truly ready to let go of operations, you are just throwing your money away. You might just need a highly skilled project manager instead.
It takes a massive mindset shift. And it highlighted a brilliant contrast Diane made between how CEOs and COOs are wired. They naturally speak different languages.
They really do. Diane joked that working with a brilliant visionary CEO can sometimes feel like standing across from a wacko tennis ball machine that is just constantly firing off ideas.
Totally.
The CEO is an idea machine, but the COO is highly detail oriented. They want flow, they want process, and they want to finish one thing before starting the next.
And that dynamic can cause so much friction if it isn't managed well. If the CEO excitedly pitches a vision and the COO immediately starts asking logistical questions, how will we do this? What about that? The CEO can feel attacked, as if their vision isn't respected.
Diane admitted she made exactly those mistakes early in her career. Her brain would instantly go into solutioning mode. Her advice to operational leaders is to frame the conversation properly. Start by validating the idea. Tell the CEO you find the vision interesting and you want to bring it to life. And then ask, is now a good time to ask some logistical questions? It changes the entire tone from adversarial to a partnership.
And the communication flow has to be managed upwards too. Diane gave great advice on how a COO should communicate to a CEO, knowing that CEOs hate getting bogged down in the weeds.
Yes. If a CCO sends a massive chronological email filled with details, the CEO is going to glance at it, file it, and never read it.
Of course.
Diane suggests giving the CEO the bottom line up front. Here are the 3 things you need to know to be confident that everything is running smoothly. The details are below if you want them. That allows the CEO to relax, not worry about micromanaging, and stay focused on the big picture.
If that relationship isn't aligned, the cost to the business is actually staggering. In the interview, Diane shared some statistics on the hidden costs of leadership miscommunication that were just frightening.
The payroll loss calculator. Yes, she noted that studies show miscommunications cost a company between $12,000 and $15,000 per year per employee.
Wow.
She broke it down perfectly. If your leadership team is losing just 1.5 hours a day to clarifying questions, following up and chasing down information, that equates to roughly 11 weeks of lost payroll. So
11 weeks of payroll, just vanishing because of a lack of role clarity. That alone should be the catalyst for any business owner listening to take a hard look at their leadership team's alignment. And role clarity gets put to the ultimate test when you do finally hire that COO because the existing staff are so used to going directly to the founder.
exactly, it creates what Diane called the mom and dad scenario. A staff member doesn't like the answer they get from the new COO, so they try to bypass them by knocking on the CEO's door.
And the CEO has to be disciplined enough to turn them away, right?
They have to. The CEO must be willing to say, that is something Jim is handling now. You have to go to him. Diane pointed out that if the CEO caves and answers the question, they not only undermine the COO, but they might be giving outdated advice because they aren't in the day-to-day weeds anymore. You have to publicly be your COO's biggest cheerleader. Sound support goes further than money or bonuses.
So when we contrast these 2 interviews, we see a clear roadmap. Liz Hubert gives us the tools to decide what to do and what to put on the later list. And Diane Mentzer gives us the framework for how to build the operational leadership required to actually execute those decisions without the founder burning out.
But the glue holding both of those concepts together is delegation. And I love the delegation strategy we discussed in Diane's interview, pulled from David Marquette's book, Turn the Ship Around.
Oh, yes, the fear of letting go.
Right. The strategy is that when a CEO is handing over a major role, they should sit down and write a list of everything they are secretly terrified will go wrong. Just the act of writing it down gets it out of your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
But then you hand that exact list to your new COO and say, here is everything I am afraid of. As long as none of these things happen, you are good to go.
It's a brilliant way to define what success looks like while handing over both the responsibility and the authority. Because delegating responsibility without authority is just tying your COO's hands behind their back.
Both of these interviews were just packed with so much practical wisdom. Business insights on removing bias from our decisions and Diane's deep dive into the CEO-CRO dynamic are absolute must-listens for anyone trying to push their business through that next growth ceiling.
I completely agree. There is so much more depth in both of these conversations that we couldn't fit into today's short, including Liz's thoughts on utilizing AI for customer data and Diane's favorite tech tools.
Absolutely. I highly recommend that everyone goes back and listens to the actual interviews with both Liz Hubert and Diane Mentzer.
Yes, you can listen to the full interviews by searching for ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Make sure you follow so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
If you're tired of ending the week busy but no further forward, Smart 90 might be for you. It's a 90-day execution rhythm with an AI alignment check that really builds some great leadership habits and keeps your daily focus tied to what actually matters. Try it for free at smart90.co.uk.